This is a crash course comparison of Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson and A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, featuring Lance Hoke, Georgie Duddy, and Connor Dang.
First, let's learn a little bit about our poets. Emily Dickinson is a well-renowned American poet who is unrecognized for her unique style of poetry during her time. Dickinson was born December 10, 1830, in Amherst, Massachusetts, into a rather wealthy family. Her father, Samuel Dickinson, was the founder of what is known as Amherst College. Therefore, Dickinson was able to attend the academy and be provided with a solid education during her upbringing. Dickinson mysteriously dropped out of school after 8 years of education. Some say it was a result of her unstable emotional state. Dickinson, for the majority of her life, tended to stay locked in a room, writing large amounts of poetry and letters, and never conformed to societal norms, such as joining a religious congregation or getting married. It is now suggested that Dickinson most likely suffered from a form of mental illness, such as depression or anxiety. Emily Dickinson passed away May 15, 1886, and all her writing was discovered by her sister and later published to become some of the most well-known poetry in American history.
Our other poet is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who is pretty much the exact opposite of Dickinson. He was a famous fireside poet, one of his most well-known poems being A Psalm of Life. Fireside poets were called this because families would typically sit down by their fireplaces and read the entertaining poems. He became acknowledged nationally in the 1850s and internationally recognized near his death in 1882. He was a traveler, a linguist, and a romantic that based most of his writing off of European traditions. He used these European traditions alongside American traditions and merged them together to make his poems.
Now that we know a little bit about our poets, let's hear their poems. First, Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. He passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Or rather he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We passed before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day. I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity.
The poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson alerts the reader that death could occur at any point in time. Dickinson personifies death as a kind man taking her on a carriage ride. As Dickinson is on this carriage ride, her journey to death, she reflects back on the treasures of life as seen in stanza 3. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. In the final stanza, Dickinson notes on how her death felt as if it were yesterday. She is not afraid or burdened by death and explains how the afterlife lasts an eternity.
And now we have A Psalm of Life. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Thus thou art to dust returnest was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined and our way, but to act that each tomorrow find us further than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however present, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in living present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints of sand of time. Footprints that perhaps another sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait.
The poem A Psalm of Life by Henry Longfellow inspires the reader to live life to the fullest despite the fact that we will all pass on one day. The title A Psalm of Life refers to praising life and what it has to offer. Longfellow shows death as something not to fear and to rather enjoy life while we have time. Throughout the poem, Longfellow puts emphasis on words that relate to time. Through this, he encourages the reader to stop focusing so much on the future, let go of the past, and to live fully in the present. While Dickinson speaks from the afterlife and Longfellow speaks from the present life, both authors do not fear the outcome of death. Dickinson recognizes death through personification. Because I cannot stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. She even uses the adjective kindly and personifies death as a gentleman, which shows the narrator is not fearful of death. In the Psalm of Life, Longfellow's overall theme of the poem, as stated before, is to live life to the fullest, no matter the circumstances, and to not worry about the future or death, but to live in the present.
Another similarity is that both authors capitalize important words in their poems that relate to each other. In Dickinson's poem, she capitalizes words such as the school, children, recess, the ring, fields of gazing grain, and the setting sun, which all relate because they symbolize a person's life. In Longfellow's poem, he capitalizes words such as future, past, and present, which relate because they are all part of Longfellow's point that a person should live in the present.
Last similarity among the two poems is that both poets believe death should come to you. Dickinson expresses this through her poem's title and throughout the poem. The title, Because I Could Not Stop for Death, shows how she continued to live her life without death interfering. Longfellow says, and the grave is not its goal meaning life's goal. This shows that Longfellow isn't focused or searching for death, rather accepting death as a consequence of living. Both poets share the attitude that death should not affect our lives. Both poems teach its readers that death is unexpected, yet we should not live life dwelling on what the outcome may be. Thank you for listening to our crash course.